Article 511.10 addresses electrical wiring, stating that all wiring and equipment must be listed for use in Class 1, Division 2, Groups D and E hazardous classified locations. This includes wires and cables, conduit and fittings, lighting fixtures, motors and controllers, and switches and circuit breakers. Article 511.10b permits the use of flexible cords and cables, provided they are listed for the specific hazardous classified location. Article 511.10c mandates that all wiring must be installed in accordance with Article 501 of the National Electrical Code for ordinary locations, except as modified by Article 511. Article 511.70 pertains to heating and requires that heating appliances must be listed for use in Class 1, Division 2, Groups D and E hazardous classified locations. Article 511.70b specifies that heating appliances must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions, and Article 501 of the NEC for ordinary locations, except as modified by Article 511. Article 511.80 discusses ventilation, stipulating that a mechanical ventilation system must be provided to maintain the concentration of flammable vapors below 25% of the lower flammable limit. Article 511.80b requires ventilation systems to be capable of operating continuously. Article 511.80c emphasizes that ventilation systems must be designed to prevent the accumulation of flammable vapors in pockets or dead spaces. Exhaust fans should be installed at the lowest point in the warehouse to remove fumes that settle. The air exchange rate should be sufficient to maintain a negative pressure inside the warehouse compared to the outside. Flammable vapor detectors should be installed to monitor the concentration of fumes and activate an alarm if necessary. An emergency response plan should be in place to address the potential release of flammable vapors and instruct personnel on how to respond. When dealing with electrical wiring in a location storing diesel and gasoline, it is crucial to adhere to the guidelines outlined in NEC Article 511. This article specifically addresses the electrical requirements for commercial garages, repair, and storage areas where volatile flammable liquids are handled. The primary concern is to mitigate the risk of ignition caused by electrical equipment in potentially explosive atmospheres. Firstly, all electrical wiring and equipment within the hazardous area must be suitable for Class 1, Division 2 locations, as specified in Article 511.10a. This classification indicates that flammable gases or vapors may be present in the air under abnormal conditions, such as during equipment failure or accidents. Therefore, all electrical components, including wiring, conduit, fittings, lighting fixtures, motors, controllers, switches, and circuit breakers, must be listed and labeled for use in such hazardous environments. This ensures that they are designed and constructed to prevent sparks or hot surfaces that could ignite the flammable vapors. Secondly, wiring methods must comply with the requirements of Article 501 of the NEC, as referenced in Article 511.10c. This typically involves the use of rigid metal conduit or intermediate metal conduit with explosion-proof fittings to provide a robust and sealed enclosure for wiring. The conduit system must be properly grounded to minimize the risk of static electricity buildup, which could also serve as an ignition source. Flexible cords and cables are permitted under certain conditions, as outlined in Article 511.10b, but they must also be listed for use in Class 1, Division 2 locations and be of a type specifically approved for the application. The use of non-metallic wiring methods, such as non-metallic sheath cable or electrical non-metallic tubing, is generally prohibited in hazardous locations due to the lack of mechanical strength and inability to contain explosions. Thirdly, special attention must be paid to the installation of lighting fixtures in the warehouse. Article 511.9b requires that lighting fixtures located within 12 feet of the floor be of the type approved for Class 1, Division 2 locations. These fixtures are designed to contain any internal explosions and prevent them from propagating to the surrounding atmosphere. They also typically have sealed globes to protect the lamps from breakage and prevent the release of hot filaments. In addition to the specific requirements of Article 511, it is essential to follow general electrical safety practices, such as ensuring proper grounding, using appropriately sized conductors, and protecting circuits with overcurrent devices. Regular inspections and maintenance of the electrical system are also crucial to identify and correct any potential hazards before they lead to an incident. When selecting heating appliances for use in a warehouse storing diesel and gasoline, it is imperative to prioritize safety and compliance with the National Electrical Code, specifically Article 511. This article addresses the electrical requirements for commercial garages, repair, and storage areas where flammable liquids are handled, and it provides specific guidelines for heating appliances to minimize the risk of ignition in potentially explosive atmospheres. Firstly, Article 511.70 mandates that all heating appliances used in the warehouse must be listed for use in Class 1, Division 2, Groups D and E hazardous classified locations. This classification indicates that flammable gases or vapors may be present in the air under abnormal conditions. Therefore, the heating appliances must be designed and constructed to prevent sparks or hot surfaces that could ignite these vapors. This typically involves the use of sealed or enclosed heating elements, temperature-limiting controls, and explosion-proof enclosures. Secondly, heating appliances must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and Article 501 of the NEC as referenced in Article 511.70b. This includes proper mounting, clearance from combustible materials, and wiring connections. The installation must also comply with any local codes or regulations that may be in effect. The location of heating appliances is also an important consideration. They should be placed away from areas where flammable liquids are stored or dispensed, and they should be protected from physical damage. It is also advisable to install heating appliances at a height that minimizes the risk of contact with flammable vapors, which tend to accumulate near the floor. Thirdly, the type of heating appliance selected should be appropriate for the specific application and the size of the warehouse. Forced air heaters, radiant heaters, and unit heaters are all common options, but each has its own advantages and disadvantages. Forced air heaters provide even heat distribution throughout the space, but they can also stir up dust and vapors. Radiant heaters provide direct heat to objects and surfaces, but they may not be as effective at heating large areas. Unit heaters are a combination of forced air and radiant heating, and they can be a good compromise for many applications. In addition to the specific requirements of Article 511, it is essential to follow general safety practices such as ensuring proper ventilation, maintaining a clean and orderly work area, and training employees in the safe handling of flammable liquids. Regular inspections and maintenance of the heating system are also crucial to identify and correct any potential hazards before they lead to an incident. The design and implementation of an effective ventilation system are paramount when dealing with a warehouse storing diesel and gasoline, as these substances can release flammable vapors that pose a significant fire and explosion hazard. NEC Article 511.80 provides specific guidelines for ventilation in such environments, emphasizing the need to maintain a safe atmosphere by controlling the concentration of flammable vapors. Firstly, Article 511.80 mandates that a mechanical ventilation system must be provided to maintain the concentration of flammable vapors below 25% of the lower flammable limit. The lower flammable limit is the minimum concentration of a vapor in air that will support combustion. Therefore, maintaining the vapor concentration below 25% of this limit provides a substantial safety margin, reducing the risk of ignition. To achieve this, the ventilation system must be capable of providing a sufficient air exchange rate to dilute and remove the flammable vapors. The specific air exchange rate required will depend on several factors, including the size of the warehouse, the quantity of flammable liquid stored, the rate of vapor release, and the effectiveness of the ventilation system. Secondly, Article 511.80b requires that ventilation systems must be capable of operating continuously. This is essential to ensure that flammable vapors do not accumulate to dangerous levels, even during periods of inactivity. The ventilation system should be designed with redundant components or backup power sources to prevent interruptions in operation due to equipment failure or power outages. Thirdly, Article 511.80c emphasizes that ventilation systems must be designed to prevent the accumulation of flammable vapors in pockets or dead spaces. This means that the ventilation system should provide adequate air movement throughout the entire warehouse, eliminating areas where vapors could stagnate and concentrate. This can be achieved by strategically placing air inlets and outlets, using fans to promote air circulation, and avoiding obstructions that could impede airflow. In addition to the specific requirements of Article 511, there are several other considerations that should be taken into account when designing a ventilation system for a warehouse storing diesel and gasoline. The location of exhaust fans is crucial. They should be placed at the lowest point in the warehouse, as flammable vapors are typically heavier than air and tend to accumulate near the floor. The exhaust fan should also be located away from air intakes to prevent the recirculation of contaminated air. The air exchange rate should be sufficient to maintain a negative pressure inside the warehouse compared to the outside. This helps to prevent the escape of flammable vapors into the surrounding environment. Flammable vapor detectors should be installed to monitor the concentration of fumes and activate an alarm if necessary. These detectors can provide an early warning of potential hazards, allowing personnel to take corrective action before a fire or explosion occurs. An emergency response plan should be in place to address the potential release of flammable vapors and instruct personnel on how to respond. This plan should include procedures for evacuating the warehouse, shutting down equipment, and contacting emergency services. Regular inspections and maintenance of the ventilation system are also crucial to ensure its continued effectiveness. This includes checking fans, ducts, and filters for damage or blockage, and verifying the operation of the control system. By following these guidelines and implementing a comprehensive ventilation strategy, it is possible to create a safe and healthy environment in a warehouse storing diesel and gasoline.